And then you just let your hands rest wherever they are. So you can right foot in, lift your right leg up. Okay, if you have hip on the side, you keep the calves work together. They synergist muscles. Welcome to this little workout today, which is going to be focused on hamstring flexibility. So hamstring flexibility, so all these muscles at the back of the leg, those are the hamstrings. And hamstrings can impact lower back, they can impact the hips, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to focus on very quick little workouts that you can do to release your hamstrings at the back. So what you're going to need for today's session is a cushion, or if you have got any Pilates or yoga blocks, by all means you can use that as well. For one of the exercises, the higher it is, the more intense it is. So you might not want to use something too high. And then I'm always after a little bit of luxury, so I've got a little cushion for my head. And then I've got a strap, but you can use any band, you can use a towel or a belt. And there's a specific reason why I like to use the strap as opposed to a band, but I'll go through that when we do the session. So, right, let's get started. So we'll start with just mobilizing the spine, and as we do that, we're actually just going to warm up the back of the leg. So I'm going to turn side on so you can see. So your feet want to be hip width apart, and to be perfectly honest, for what I'm focusing on today, people can get very fixated about your feet are not hip width apart or your toes are slightly turned out, focusing on the spine. So I'm not really worried what the legs are doing, providing you're not standing there. They're like that. So standing nice and tall, and we're just going to go through a good posture. So that is one thing that I can be quite pedantic about. Is like, I want to make sure that people are in a good posture before we move our body. Okay, so that we actually recruit the muscles in the right order as they are meant to be working. So the feet are hip width apart. Now I know personally I have a habit of either sinking too far back in my heels or pushing my hips forward and standing like that. So I have got to pay attention to where the weight is in my feet. So you want the weight evenly spread between the ball of the foot, the blade of the foot, and the heels. Paul always laughs at the way I say heels. So from there, your ankle, knees, and hips are in one line. Now in terms of the pelvis, there's something called neutral pelvis in Pilates. And a neutral spine and a neutral pelvis allows your body to stand in a position with the least stress and strain on all the joints, the tendons, the ligaments, and the muscles. So if you stood like this, your spine is not sitting in the most, the way it's meant to be. So at some stage in these bones, there's going to be compression. Some of the tendons might be at a little bit of a stretch or disadvantage. So a neutral spine, neutral pelvis allows the body to be in the best anatomical position for the bone. So each bone sits on the other one correctly in the best shape. So that's basically why we want to be in a neutral spine, neutral pelvis. So to get into a neutral pelvis, you have your hip bones at the front of your hips. Often people think hips are there. You've got these little bony bits, and if you can't feel them, you really need to dig your fingers in. So imagine you've got little lights on your fingers over there. So some people's pelvis is what you call anteriorly tilted, tilts forward. So they might have like a sticky out bum. Other people, and this one is the more common one just because of sitting and all that kind of stuff all day. The other one is the pelvis is rolling the other way. So my fingers are coming up closer towards the rib cage. So we tend to be in that kind of position. That's a posteriorly tilted, so the pelvis is rolling backwards. We want to find the in-between one. So, like I said, imagine you've got little lights on your fingers and they want to be pointing directly in front of you. So what I'll say to people is just soften your knees, give your bum a little wiggle, and you're going to find a point where it feels centered. And then you straighten the legs. Now, if you are naturally anteriorly tilted or you are naturally posteriorly tilted, it's not necessarily going to feel the best position for you. So, for example, and I'm spending a bit of time with this one because it is the first lesson of this course, so I want to make sure that you have this understanding. I won't be going through every video so in depth. So, like when I first started Pilates, I was very posteriorly tilted. So whenever I put myself into a neutral pelvis position, my proprioceptors were telling the brain that I'm doing that. But it's just because the brain isn't used to that shape. So don't worry if you think, oh, I feel like I'm sticking out my bum. Or perhaps if you're naturally anteriorly tilted and you're trying to put your pelvis in neutral, it's going to feel like you're doing that. So it's completely normal for it to not feel right. But what you're aiming for is, where does it feel like the bones are sitting the nicest? And there's another way that some teachers explain it. So imagine you've got a bowl of soup sitting inside the pelvis. And you want to find the center point where the soup is staying even. It's not falling out the front and it's not falling out the back. So once you've got that in alignment, you can straighten the legs. And then bring your shoulders forward, up to your ears, to the wall behind you, and then just relax the arms down. So again, if you are naturally rounded in your upper back, you're going to feel like this is sticking out the chest really badly. Or, and this tends to be not as common, people that have a really sticky out chest and they naturally walk like this, for them to just pull that rib cage in a little bit, feels like they're doing that. But that's not as common as the round shoulderedness. So ears, shoulders, hips, ankles are all in the line. And then you just let your hands rest wherever they are. So I'm just going to turn to the front. There isn't a specific position for arms to be in. So women, especially women, tend to have what's called a carry angle. So some ladies like mine, you can see I was never meant to have children, my hands can go right next to my hips. Some ladies' arms are like that, and it's to allow for hips. If you think of childbirth and all that kind of stuff, it's part of female anatomy. So, and it varies. Like I said, so some people can be straight, some people can be at the side. So don't get fixated on where the arms sit for you. Some people might just naturally be in that position. So let's go into some exercise. Feet are hip width apart. We're going to start with soft knees. So if you have a tendency to hang in the joint, like just lock them and relax in that position, we want to soften the knees. So take like a micro bend, have that now. Now from here, we're going to reverse the car into the garage. You're going to take your chin, and instead of dropping it down, you're going to send your chin back. Very sexy, because you're going to give yourself a double chin. It's not very easy to talk in that position. Okay, but make sure the shoulders aren't coming back, forward. Now, from there, take your chin to the space above the collarbones. So I'm still not allowing the whole body to roll. It's just the skull on top of the head that I'm trying to get towards the collarbones, so that I can start to stretch off these muscles over there, which for quite a lot of people, we need that. And then pull the tummy in, and I'm going to try and get my head as close to my body as I can. My arms are relaxed, and I'm going to roll down. And just go down halfway to start with. Notice your feet. So if you can lift your toes up, just try and move the weight a little bit more into the front part of the feet. The shoulders are relaxed, the arms are relaxed. Now focus on the tummy. You want to keep that belly button pulled in the whole time. It doesn't really make it that easy to breathe. And now breathe in. And as you exhale, pull the tummy in to each vertebra into the back. And then as you come up, we're going to lift the head. We're staying in neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Have a shoulder roll. And then we're going to carry on with those. So keeping the legs soft to start with, chin to chest. Pull the tummy in the whole time. Now maybe this is enough for you. Or if you feel like you can go a little bit lower, go lower. Pull the tummy in as you come up. Keep the arms relaxed, shoulders relaxed. Have a little shoulder roll at the top. And we're just going to carry on with those. Reverse the car, chin to chest. Pull that tummy in, pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. Relax the top half of the body. Now hold it at the bottom. So my knees are still slightly bent. Just holding it there. And then I'm going to straighten my right leg, bend my left leg. Now bend your left leg, straighten your right leg. Now if you can't touch the floor, you can use some blocks over there. Maybe you've got your couch, or maybe your hands over there. Okay, so just anything where your hands are touching something. So we're just saying hello to the back of the legs, the hamstrings and the calves. Good. Now soften your knees, relax your arms and shoulders again. Breath in at the bottom. And now pull your tummy into your back. Pull it in, pull it in. Keep everything relaxed. The chin stays tucked in the whole time. It's the last thing to come out of the roll down. And then have a shoulder roll. So we're going to change that a little bit now. Now if you found that that was quite a lot on your back and your hamstrings with bent legs, stay with that one. Otherwise, we're going to make it a tiny little bit more intense by keeping the legs straight, because I want to warm up the back of the legs so when we come down onto the mat, it'll be a little bit easier. So again, feet are hip width apart, neutral pelvis, neutral spine, have a shoulder roll, and you want to think of space between your ears and your shoulders. So now we're going to keep the legs straight. So breath in, reverse your car into the garage. Take the chin above the collarbones. Nice stretch. Down the neck, you might feel that either side of the shoulder blades. And then pull the tummy in. I'm going to keep my legs straight. Now see if you can pull your kneecaps up to your hips to engage your thighs. They're going to help secure that knee joint. And then relax your arms. And we're going to go down again as far as you can. And then when you get to the bottom again, so I'm purposely pushing my hips back. So if you look at the hips, my hips are like in line with that. We want the hips to stay in line with the ankle. So the weight needs to come a little bit more front foot, almost to the point where you feel like you're going to fall over. And again, you can use blocks, your couch, cushions. Inhale at the bottom. And then as you come up, keep that chin tucked in. Imagine you're trying to draw a line up the center of your body with your forehead, keeping the legs active. Once you come up, have a shoulder roll. So this is the very last one we're going to do. Breathe in, reverse the car, chin to chest, and rolling yourself down. My tummy is engaged. I pull it in, pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. When you get to the bottom, relax your neck, your arms, your shoulders. The weight is in the front part, mid parts of the foot. And just see if you can go a little bit deeper. Now pull your tummy in, pull it in as you start to come up again. And you'll probably find you have to do that on an exhale. And then once you come up, have a nice shoulder roll. Good. So we are going to come onto the floor. We're going to do a little bit of a passive stretch. So one that doesn't actually require you to do anything. If you've got some cushions on your sofa, you can use that, or I'm just using a Pilates block. The higher it is, the more intense it's going to be. So if you tend to suffer with lower back ache, you're probably going to want a smaller block. Okay, so I'm going to come onto my back. And like I said, I like to have a little cushion for luxury. So on my back, I'm going to pop that underneath the pelvis. Okay. So it's under the bone structure of the pelvis. It doesn't want to be anywhere in your mid-lower back by your kidneys. And we are just going to straighten the legs in this position. And now we're going to straighten the arms above the head. So if you have any discomfort in your shoulders, you can either take the arms wider, you can bend the arms, you can add cushions under the arms as well, just to lift them a little bit. Or if you really don't like the shoulders there, perhaps you've had a shoulder injury or something, you can always just put the hands out to the side. But having the arms in this position actually helps release fascia in the body. So fascia is a connective tissue that's wrapped around all the muscles, everything. There's loads of fascia in your body. And it's crisscross and it's down the front, down the side, everywhere. Comes up at the top of the head. So what we're doing now is just releasing the fascia down the front of the body and allowing the hips to have a stretch. So if you've been sitting all day, this angle, you can see the space between my hip bone and my thigh is small. So what happens, and this is not technically what happens, but I like to think of it like this. If we sit all day like this, the muscle shrinks. So then when it comes to straightening the leg, there isn't muscle length for the leg to work properly. So by doing this, we're just allowing that muscle to get long again. So again, if you suffer with lower backache, this is a really good exercise. Although you might feel pulling in your mid-lower back, it's completely normal. It's not very comfortable for some people, but it is quite beneficial. So now all you need to do is just have a stretch. Just reach your arms away, reach your toes away. Good. And then we're going to bring the left knee in towards the chest. So I like to hold behind the thigh, but you can hold front of the leg as well. Experiment with it. Sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of a different movement when I hold behind the leg compared to the front of the leg. So caution if you've had a hip replacement. So if you've had a hip replacement, especially very recently, the knee doesn't want to go past hip height. Unless your consultant has said just carry on as normal, you should be all right. But just health and safety, the knee doesn't want to go past hip height, so you would just keep it there. But for everybody else, you can pull the leg in. Now what I actually want you to focus on is this leg, your straight leg. Really trying to reach that one away. Put your left foot back on the floor, slide it down to the end of the mat, bring your right foot in. Lift your right leg up. Again, if you've had hip on this side, you keep it up to there, or you pull it in. So, oh, that sounds so much simpler. Most people, in fact, I have never met anyone that is completely the same on both sides, okay, just because of our daily habits. So put your right foot down, slide it away. You might find as we do this, one side feels a little easier, a little more mobile than the other side. Put it down, slide it away. Bring your right leg in. So keep reaching that left leg away and use your arm muscles. This is working upper body as well. Pull that leg in as much as you can. This side for me is a lot less flexible than the other side. Good. So we're going to do one more each side. And then I want you to choose the side that you feel is the most challenging side. Or maybe like me, I get a bit of, not pain, but it's discomfort. So I'm going to stick to my right leg because that's the one that needs a little bit more work. So you pick your tighter side or the side that feels most restrictive. And we're going to stay there for 5 breaths. Okay? So nice deep breaths. And each exhale, you're going to try and pull it in a little bit closer, but you might be able to see my left knee is trying to pop up, and I'm going to really encourage that left knee to stay down. Because what might happen is you might get the leg in closer, but the other leg is popping up. So what's actually happening is the pelvis is moving. We don't want the pelvis to move. So reach the straight leg away. Good, last breath. And then bring that foot down onto the floor. So you can take the block away, give your knees a hug if you want to, and then grab your belt or your strap, whatever you want to use. So just going to sit up for a moment. So I like to use a strap because there's no give in it. So especially if you're quite tight or your leg's really heavy, so people do chuckle about this, but the longer your legs, the harder it is to keep your legs up there. And sometimes we've got purple bands that are quite stiff, and they can help. But if you find that you're not very flexible in the hamstring and the leg's heavy, the belt is good because there's no give in it, and then your arms can do a little bit more of the work. So I like to use a belt. So you want to put the strap or whatever you're using on the ball of the foot. Okay? So I'm just starting with my right leg because that's the side you're on. Now, try and have this knee straight. Even if the leg is there, it doesn't matter. Often we are so fixated on trying to get the leg up over the head that the leg's bending and all sorts is going on. And then you're not really getting into the back of the hamstrings in the way that I'm trying to get into there. So the knee must be straight. And I'm actually going to pop another block under my head. That's better. So from here, take it down wherever you can straighten the leg, and then we're going to engage the knee. Now from there, flex your foot. So that is a point, and that's a flex. Point, flex. So we're going to flex the foot, and it's actually going to make it feel yucky. Hamstrings are not my favorite thing. So leg is straight, and I'm flexing, flexing, flexing. Now, if you've had a hip replacement on your right side, what you're trying to do with the strap is not necessarily pull the leg down into the hip socket. The strap is there to help you flex the foot. So my angle of pull is more that way. Okay? So you can see with the belt, there's no give. So for those of you that got bands, you might find the leg wants to bounce a little bit, which is why I like to use the strap. And we're just going to hold it here. So you want to be, if it's early morning for you, you want to be maybe about a 5 or a 6 on the discomfort scale. If you've walked the dogs or you've been out or it's end of the day, then maybe you can take it to a 7 or an 8. So what do I mean by that? So a 10 for me would be like that. It's like, oh, something's going to ping in a minute. Don't want to be hurting my body, so that's about an 8 for me, 7 or an 8. It's where you can feel it. It's a little bit, ooh, but it's not complete agony where you're breaking out into a sweat and you want to cry. You don't want to be working like that, okay? So while we're holding the stretch, I'm going to carry on talking. So hamstrings and the calves work together. They're synergist muscles. So often people have a lack of flexibility in the back of the leg, and they stretch and they stretch and they stretch, and they still feel quite restrictive when doing certain things. And a lot of that has to do with the back of the calf, especially the top part here, which is why we really want to try and flex that foot. Like now, my leg actually wants to go down a little bit because I'm making the calf stretch more, okay? Good. And you might feel like after 10, 20 seconds that it eases, but it's not because you've dropped the leg, it's because the muscles have gotten used to being in that leg. So whenever we do stretching, particularly developmental stretching, so we're trying to make the muscle longer, we need to hold it for at least 20 seconds. So now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put both the straps into my right hand, and I'm going to start to take this leg out to the side. Okay. My elbow is on the floor, and the leg is still straight. Now, if your adductors, which are the inner thighs, if they are not long muscles, then maybe yours is going to look like that. It's going to be quite high. It's fine. It's all we're after. What we're trying not to do is let the leg pop down over there, because then we lose the inside of the leg, the stretch that we're getting. So just take it out. We want to try and keep it high and then pull it out towards the side. So I'm actually going to take this block that I've got my head on. Now what you can do is you can put a block right next to that hip, so that when you take the leg out, it stops your whole pelvis rolling over. Because this might happen. I'm going to exaggerate it. Let me take that away. you might get something like that. And you can see this whole top hip. So really the position that your body is in is that position because you've actually turned your spine. So having a block or cushion there just stops the hip from rolling, and then you can focus more on the leg there. Your other hand, your left hand, can go out to the side. You can look towards the left side as well. I'm going to just stay here for another 10 seconds. Relaxing your shoulders, your face, your eyebrows. Good. Now on your next breath out, as your tummy pulls in, you're going to help your leg up. Move that one. So now I'm going to put both straps into my left hand. And if you've had a hip replacement, the leg is only going to go just slightly over towards the left side. So the foot, if you look at where the foot is, and if my band dangles, it's in line with the hip. So the leg doesn't want to go all the way if you've had a hip replacement. Okay? So hip replacement, just a tiny, probably like 10 centimeters or something like that. Now for the rest of us, your bum wants to stay on the floor. And to be fair, if you're doing this properly, you really, unless you've got like really good hip mobility, you're probably not going to get it that far anyway. Okay? So the bum's down, so be aware that the bum doesn't lift off of the floor. The leg wants to stay straight, so engage your kneecaps, and then the ankle sickles. So what I'm going to do is just show you. So sometimes that starts to happen. The leg bends and the ankle folds. So come back to the center, straighten the leg, pull on the band to flex the foot, and then move it from there. So I'm like, oh, I can feel that over there. Okay? Guys in particular might struggle with this one or find it more intense than the ladies, just because men's hip anatomy is different. So where women's thigh bones, they tend to go a little bit more under the pelvis, so they go up into the hip socket under the pelvis. Men's hips are more on the side, so they've got different shaped pelvis. So for them to get their leg across is a little bit more of a journey for them. So they might get a lot more pulling. It's not all men, just for some of them, but it tends to be more men that find this one agony. Good. And then we're going to bring that back up, bend your leg, give it a wiggle, and then we're going to do the other side. So straightening that leg there. Find your straight leg and then bring it up. So I know that my left leg is more flexible than my right leg. So remember, I said earlier, everyone has a difference. So this leg is a little bit more tighter for me. Now, if your left leg feels more restrictive, just be a bit more gentle, because they won't be the same on both sides, and you don't want to pull muscles or hurt yourself. So if this is your more flexible side, you find if it's your least flexible side, just be a bit more gentle. So coming to that nice strong flex again with that leg. You really want to be feeling it there and in the hamstring there. So often what people do when they're stretching hamstrings is they tend to stretch the top half of the hamstring. And there's 3 hamstrings, so they tend to stretch off this part and not the part behind the leg, which is where most people have a lack of flexibility. So really getting into that calf. Oh, sometimes I want to cry with these. Hamstrings are not my favorite. Generally, people will have tight back body and long front body, or they'll have long back body and tight front body. I'm just holding for a few more breaths. So don't be tempted to bend the leg. Keep squeezing your kneecap. And every now and again, just see if you can make it a bit tighter. Good. So I'm going to take the block, put it next to my left hip. Both hands hold there. And remember, I've got long arms, so I can reach quite high, but you might be over there. You can take the leg out to the side elbow goes on the floor to support the arm, and the leg goes out. Okay. So remember what I said, your brain's going to want to make this easy and comfortable, so it might want to drop the leg down to the floor right near the other foot. Even if you can only take it out a little bit to the side, that's fine, because we're trying to stretch the inside. Okay, so just go as far as you can, but try not to let the foot drop down towards the other one. Right hand out to the side, looking towards your hand. We're nearly there. And then on your next breath out, bring the leg up. Now we're going to take both hands onto the band. So again, if you've had a hip replacement on this side, you're only going to bring it so that the foot is in line with that hip. Bum cheeks stay on the floor. So if you're not sure, what I say to clients is put all your weight on your left hand, and then when you take the leg across, you don't want that weight to come off of the foot, off the hand. Okay. Oh, that's really tight. So the knee is straight. Be aware the knee is going to want to bend and the ankle will sickle. So to stop the sickling, what you can do is push the ball of the foot into the belt, and it helps to straighten up that ankle. Oh, so this is stretching off the IT band, the outer leg. So we've done, it's called a three-way leg stretch. So working the back of the legs, the hamstrings, the abductors, which are on the outer thigh, and adductors, which are on the inner thigh. And all these muscles impact hip mobility. And then bring the leg back up again. Good. And then we're going to take that belt off. Just bring your knees into your chest. Good. So we're going to roll over onto the side, and then just gently push yourself up. So just take a moment for your dizziness to settle. And then we're going to start to make our way back into standing. So take your time. Some days you can jump up like a gazelle and you're fine, and other days it's like, oh. So when we come up, if you need support, a wall or something, just use that. But try and keep your head down. And if you get dizzy as you come up, just bring yourself back down again. Good. So we're just going to do a couple more roll downs just to finish with, and I just want you to see how you feel in the back of the legs. So feet are hip width apart, having that shoulder roll. We reverse the car into the garage. So turn to garage, tummy is pulled in, relax the head down. Try and keep the legs straight, and then going down towards the floor, head to knees. How does that feel? And then last one, bring yourself back up as you breathe out, and have a shoulder roll at the top. Good. So have your feet a little bit wider, and we call this a very technical term called flomping, just to loosen the body up again. And then bring yourself back to the finish. So that is all for this session on hamstrings, a very gentle three-way leg stretch to start loosening off the legs, for your everyday life, just to make the hips a little bit more mobile. So I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.